It's BumbleKast Mini, this time sponsored by StarMech.
Here we go! Gun to your head, ball and chained, someone at Sega has dragged you to a secret room with no escape and told you something shocking. You're thinking of bringing back a character from the old Sonic cartoons and implementing them into the IDW canon. The bad news is, it's none other than Mama Robotnik. You're given free reign as to how much you can edit, but you're obligated to add her in somehow. How would you go about integrating it into a game-based universe like IDW? How would you redesign her as to fit within the modern Sonic setting?
I'm disturbed by the number of questions we're getting where the scenario is I am taken hostage with varying degrees of violence, and you have to make a Sonic decision. I don't like this. I feel like it's prophetic. I don't want this to be happening. It scared me, Kyle. It gives me the scare.
Yeah, but it's funny too. It's funny to imagine. I think that's why.
For you, maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's all that matters. As long as it's funny to me.
Anyway,
I'm being sarcastic, guys. Calm down.
Mama Robotnik, has to be made canon. The Lore Initiative Council has come together, and despite my adamant vote to the contrary, it has been decided. I am overruled. Izuka-san himself says, "Oh, I like Mama Robotnik. Add her in." And somewhere John Gray cackles in the night. But it's left up to me, and that's where you made your key mistake there, hombre. Because she's a classic-only character, so there's no dialogue, and there's no real dedicated story or cutscenes. And she's just helping out her boy Eggy fight that darn hedgehog, so she only shows up to pilot mechs. And you know what? Those mechs are fully enclosed. There's a viewfinder where you can see some eyes, and that's it. And oh no, her first boss fight, something goes wrong. She falls into lava and is gone forever. Boom! She's canon, canonically dead. I win.
Yeah, but Izuka could always just tell you, nope, she's modern.
All right, fine. Then she's a background gag like Big the Cat.
Okay. But Big's not a gag. Big is our light. He's everything.
Look, live, laugh, love. Laugh is part of that.
All right. Well,
live big, laugh big, love big.
I do. I do. A shift between the multiverses has caused a scramble of the Eggman. Eggman? Modern game Eggman and movies Jim Carrey, Robotnik have now switched places within their particular universes. This only affected them, so they are stuck only having access to each other's resources. How do things go for each of them? How would movie Robotnik manage the much larger resources and expanses of the Eggman Empire? How would he handle game Sonic's much more experienced and cockier attitude? Would game Eggman adapt to movie Robotnik's more limited yet sleeker mechanical tools? And how would he interact with good old Agent Stone?
Movie Botnik would be terrifying because game Eggman has so many more resources to pull from. He has that kind of almost cartoon logic, limitless supply closet to pull from. So Carrie Botnik is going to just be a kid in a toy shop. He will have access to all the things. And he'll be unsettled meeting a more immediately competent and experienced Sonic, to be sure. But I think he would also eventually grow to be entertained by that, because now there isn't not that he ever really held back against movie Sonic, but there is that kind of arrogance that comes with, oh, I'm attacking the wee lad who doesn't know what he's doing. It's, oh, this guy knows what's happening. Then there is no compunction against launching all the things. And beyond that, I don't see it being particularly different. They kind of fall into their similar ruts.
Yeah.
If anything, he might be more abusive towards Orbot and Cubot, the poor guys. As for Game Eggman, he would be stifled because he's working within the realms of the movies, which to a point are more realistically based. Like most of the egg tech in the movies is borderline sci-fi. Like we do have flying drones and we do have autonomous robots. It's just taken to a greater extreme. But most of what Robotnik did in movie 2 was thanks to Master Emerald magic chicanery.
Yeah.
Like, the Death Egg robot in the movie was pure MacGuffin power. And Game Eggman's not going to have that at his disposal. So he would be chafing. He would hate it. He would actually have to work to put things together. He would still try, to be sure, and he would find new and inventive ways to do it. But I think he would be hamstrung in comparison. How would he get along with Stone? I think both of them would just kind of be unhappy because it's not Stone's Robotnik. You know, he loves that guy. And this is not the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's similar, but it's not him. And likewise, Eggman appreciates having a loyal lackey, but he's just a guy. He's not a robot. He didn't make him. He's just there. I mean, yeah, the coffee's good, but
yeah. But modern Eggman with movie Sonic, that could be interesting.
It would be more playful, I think. Like, here is a Sonic who is still incredibly powerful, sure, but isn't quite as snarky and isn't quite as self-assured.
Mm-hmm.
It would almost be like going back and, well, not even classic Sonic, because classic Sonic still has a bit of a edge to him. So I can almost see Eggman, drawing a bead on him and going, yeah, too easy. I'm about to shoot you. You need to move. You need to learn how to do this right. Almost coaching him to be a better hero.
It's almost like, I guess, Nikki from the old manga, kind of. Fascinating.
A little bit. I don't want to flanderize movies on it.
Not exactly. And I don't mean exactly, but it's a little in a similar end. So, all right. I feel like I understand, but I imagine this could use a little more clarifying for others. While you're not allowed to watch or interact with fan project as to not influence your writing, how does that deviate from interacting with separate Sonic media like Sonic Boom, Prime, the old cartoons and comics, etc.? In a way, you're still watching a take on Sonic created and written by a different set of ideas from people that may not be working with Sega anymore, and could also still influence the way you write stuff. How do you go about taking inspiration from other Sonic sources while not falling into the trappings of taking too much?
Well, in the case of anything licensed like that, that's Sonic branded material. That's not fan content. That's stuff that has been approved by Sega, that has been licensed by Sega, that has been in some degree either paid for or endorsed by Sega. It is official material. It kind of falls under the blanket of their stuff. Not getting into the whole, who owns what debate, but it is material that is Sonic brand first and foremost. And it isn't it isn't really beholden to anyone else. Fan content is not recognized. It is not bought and paid for or utilized in any official capacity. That's largely within the hands of the fans, and I don't want to take that away.
Right. And also, it's more legally dubious to do that,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really a lot of what it boils down to. So, you're asked by Sega and Namco to create a Sonic/Tales of crossover, and they even give you the option to choose one Tales game universe of your liking to have Sonic and Friends fall into. Which game would you pick, and how do you think the story would go? I thought this one might be tough for you.
Well, see, I'm of the opinion that if you're going to do a Sonic RPG, you should use the Tales of engine.
That would make
somewhere
sense.
Between Tales of Abyss or Tales of Vesperia, somewhere in there, because it's still fairly simple inputs, but you can get some complex stuff out of it. It's very action oriented, but it still has a lot of RPG elements to it, so you can take it as fast or as slow as you want.
Tales' battle system strikes me as a kind of slower, more simplified-ish version of Smash Brothers.
Yeah, it's basically Smash Brothers, the RPG.
Effectively, yeah. Which is why it's so weird there wasn't a Tails character in Smash Brothers. But anyway, never mind.
I mean, Lloyd got a costume.
Yay!
But, and I specified those two games because as great as Symphonia is, and that remaster's coming out soon, so if you hadn't picked it up on any other incarnation, you might as well grab it now. As great as it is, it does show its age a little bit, and it was the first one to go like full true 3D. So there's a little bit of growing pains there, but it's still incredibly solid. But I feel like it's a little slow in comparison to Abyss and Vesperia. Abyss is still kind of locked heavily on the 2-plane, even though you can break out of the 2-plane fighting a little bit, which I like the best out of the two personally. Vesperia is definitely more open and can get crazier, but it is so slow to build to that point that it's hard to make a direct comparison. But I'm getting way off track. You're talking about an actual crossover between games.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zestiria and Berseria, I love those games, but their combat is not really great or fun, and Arise is beloved by a lot of people, but I don't think it plays like a Tales game. It doesn't feel like a Tales game.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Ian. You can put any battle system you want in a theoretical crossover. It doesn't have to be beholden to the one you cross it over to.
I know.
So it could be like,
I'm still hung up on what to use.
You could say like, oh, it's a Sonic and Tales of Symphonia crossover, and use a battle system from a later Tales game. It's not like it's locked in.
I know. I'm kind of torn between Symphonia and Vesperia, principally because it would be really neat to see the philosophies of the personal philosophies of Sonic and Lloyd versus Sonic and Yuri, and that alone I think would have been really interesting to see and explore. Beyond that, I don't know, man. Like, Symphonia has a very well established world and lore and placement, and you could pick up where Dawn of the New World left off and continue in that direction, whereas Vesperia only had the one game, but it's still pretty open-ended. You could pick up and follow those characters. And since most of the Vesperia cast was fairly independent, you could pick up and put together the party really naturally there. I mean, it's mostly just an excuse to have Yuri and Judith and Rapide go around being awesome. Sonic just does kind of, it's a side addition at this point, but that's personal bias on my end.
I was going to say, well, if why do you have to choose which one when you could just have both? Let's do the Vesperia, Symphonia, and Sonic crossover all in one. Why not?
Oh, no. That's way too much.
No. Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Nah. Okay, it probably would be. But hey, sometimes you just gotta say, why not both?
That said, Estelle and Amy walloping things together side by side, that would be adorable. Maybe Vesperia.
I know. It's hard to choose. I love characters in both of them, but man, I need to actually sit down and play more than a few hours of Vesperia. It's been way too long since that game came out for me to not get more through more of it.
I guess it would also be a point in the favor to have an excuse to have a Sonic Shadow fight to Fury Sparks. Yeah, okay, Vesperia. There we go.
Yes, please. Fury Sparks in the style of the Sonic Frontiers boss battle themes.
God.
I very suddenly want this. In Sonic IDW issue number 53, we saw Kid having a short stay with Sonic and friends and becoming very attached and eager to please Sonic as a replacement for Surge. Do you think this constant need to attach to someone comes from Starline's mental meddling, or perhaps something more rooted within Kit's own personal subconscious? It's interesting that at the lack of finding Surge, he'd quickly attach to her sworn enemy, even if short-lasting.
That's the tragedy of it, is we don't know.
Yep.
It's clearly part of Starline's meddling. Whatever he did to the poor boy, it made him codependent on anyone who is remotely authoritative towards him. But is that something that was already there that got dialed up to 11, or did he ruin somebody who was independent? We don't know. And that's just what the monstrous nature of Starline's experiments were.
Oh, well, you probably know. You and your hashtag knowing smiles.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to spoil it here. No.
Fine. What does he know? If Sega would ask you to somehow adapt Longclaw and the lore of the Owl Clan from the movie universe into the IDW comics, how would you tackle it? Would you try to connect her and her people with the likes of the Babylonians? Would you still have them be the rival tribe against the Echidnas? And how different would you imagine Longclaw's relationship with Sonic had been?
I think you could transplant that without too much hassle, to be honest. I don't know if I would go so far as to link them with the Babylonians. I mean, we kind of were leaning into all avians or Babylonians thing with Archie. I don't know if I would want to do that again. I don't know if that's the best approach, but it's certainly possible. Having her and the owls be rivals to the echidnas, that fits. Like Pachamama. Tikal's father was like, we need the Chaos Emerald's power to fight our enemies. Well, who are those enemies? We don't know. They could be the owls. Why not? Make it the owls. And for Sonic's backstory, that's a big question mark right now. We don't know much about young Sonic. So he could have a past with Longclaw, and we could, have her show up and it's like, Sonic, it's been so long. And he's like, oh, hey, Mom, I've been doing great. Look at 30 years worth of adventures that canonically have taken about 1.5. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. And he's like, okay, thanks, bye. And then you're done. That's the backstory covered.
All right. Well, there you go. I mean, hey, why not?
I would want her adapted to look more Mobian, though. The whole being an owl thing bugs me.
I was wondering about that. Yeah. She's got to be more nermy. God, it's infecting me. No. 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 While Planet Wisp has been the closest things we have when it comes to interacting with a larger expanse of Sonic's universe, there's a particular alien territory we know yet have never been able to see. Planet Dodonpa Kingdom. How do you imagine the kingdom and its inhabitants to be like? And do you think Sega would let you interact and add to it? Considering they went out of their way to allow you and the team to add Blaze's kingdom, I'd imagine a small yet still open possibility.
I mean, I don't think it's impossible. I have no particular drive to go there. I personally envision Planet Dodonpa as like a small world within Sonic's solar system, so that interplanetary travel makes some degree of sense. And it's just kind of like a small Coruscant. Like the entire planet is, to some degree, a racetrack test ground / machine shop. And everyone in there is devoted to some level of production, whether it's janitorial services or food production or resource gathering, refinement, building, testing, construction. It's just one factory town setting, just dialed up to 100 with the king on top of it all, because sure, it's a king. That makes sense. Why not?
That is fascinating. I would actually be interested in seeing this explored, but alas, it is probably not likely. But let's move on. What's an animal that you've always wanted to implement as a character into the comics but haven't had the chance to do so? There's so many interesting and obscure animals around, and given the franchise's love to bring some of the weird ones into the spotlight, I'm curious to know if there's any that you would be curious to see in Sonic's art style. For example, I absolutely love pangolins, and I think they're very underrated animals.
Yeah, pangolin would work. I think an aardwolf would be neat. They're just neat-looking critters anyway. I think that crazy mane of theirs would translate into something interesting, Sonic-wise.
Why not Pottos?
Because I feel like that's pure nepotism.
Oh. Well, what, are you king of all Pottos? You were the Bumble King, not the Potto King.
I have passed my crown on, I suppose. I don't know how in the world you would make this work, but just for giggles, I want to see a Moat Jack.
Yeah.
And if you're going, oh, what? Did your mic stutter, Ian? No, look up Asian barking deer. And those 3 words all together, it's a real thing. Okay? And they're neat. And I don't know if they would really translate to the Sonic style, but I mean, for pity's sake, who knew what an echidna was before Sonic 3?
Echidnas didn't even translate to the Sonic style. Knuckles looks nothing like one. Hedgehogs didn't even translate to the Sonic style. Sonic looks nothing like a hedgehog.
True enough.
Yeah. I mean,
honest to goodness, Knuckles started my love for obscure and weird fauna.
Yeah.
Like, I looked up an echidna. I'm like, what in the world is an echidna? Oh, what is a monotreme? Oh, what is this? This is neat. And then I just crack open the family encyclopedias and just look up animals. It's like, what else is out there? What other neat things are around? When elephant becomes mundane, you know that you need to just look up stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually doing that myself too. Like, what the heck is an echidna? Because I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I remember like looking it up. Like, oh, okay, interesting. And that's kind of how I also learned about some weird animals that way. So thanks, Knuckles.
A question for Kyle, as he is more music savvy, but Ian can play too. Sega puts you in charge of picking a set of previously used bands to create character themes for the IDW cast: Tangle, Whisper, Starline, Surge, and Kit. They can share a theme if that's easier. Which bands that have previously worked with Sonic, Crush 40, Zebrahead, Danger Kids, Cash Cash, etc., do you feel would fit each character?
Oh man, I feel like you'd need like a Endless Possibilities type theme song for Tangle. So I guess that would be Jarrett Reddick. Let's see. As for Whisper, maybe something along the lines of Crush 40 circa Shadow. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like that is okay. Yeah, I feel like that would work for her. The heavy Crush 40 sound from the Shadow era and the 06 era, I suppose. Imagine something like With Me from their cover of With Me from Black Knight. That's kind of what I'm thinking. As for Starline, it's hard to say because we haven't had like a chamber quartet do Sonic music yet. So that's hard to say. Maybe I'll come back to Starline, but Surge is like Power Man 5000. And Kit, I guess, yeah, Julian K. The shadow themes might fit him a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Ian? Do you think my ideas are way off base?
I think they're right to ask you before me. I'm more inclined to see Surge and Kit get a duo theme from Crush 40, specifically mirroring the early adventure themes for the thematic angle.
Yeah.
Likewise, I see that kind of happy, bouncy nonsense Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 for Tangle.
Yeah, I was gonna say either that one or like the Sonic Colors, like Endless Possibility and stuff like that for Tangle. But I think either that or the early Sonic Adventure themes would work.
Sure,
but Starline's hard to pin down though. He doesn't really have that style. Maybe. I
mean, I'm kind of thinking Whisper should have a theme composed by Harry Gregson Williams, but that's a little outside of Sonic's wheelhouse.
Yeah. This is specifically, people who
I know.
have actually worked on.
Of course, if we're getting him for Whisper, we could get him for Starline too. He could do something melodramatic.
Yeah. Otherwise, my
point.
thinking would be Fumi Kumatani, who did a lot of the event music and stuff for Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And also did Knuckles' theme, some of Knuckles' themes. But yeah, I could see that, but I don't know. It's tough. I'm curious what other people would think. Hey, leave them down in the comments. Leave your ideas and your thoughts. All right, we're getting in the Frontiers spoiler zone this time. We can't avoid it, but we can warn you that we're getting into it. So if you're not interested in Frontiers spoilers, hey, we'll see you next time.
It's nothing but Frontier spoilers here on out.
Yep. So here we go. It's the meeting of the Egg Daughters. What would Belle do and think if she were to meet Sage? Would she feel weird to see the warped version of her father actually having someone she cares for? What would the small AI girl think of this wooden automaton that happens to be her sister by bizarre association?
I actually floated this kind of... I actually talked about this a little bit with Evan Stanley, and we're both in agreement that this is fertile ground.
Oh yeah.
Which is there's so many possibilities. There's so many ways to take this, and we don't know if and when we'd be able to do that. So I kind of want to not get into it because, one, don't want to steal her thunder if she gets the first chance, and two, don't want to potentially spoil anything because there's a lot of really plausible directions to go with this, both good and bad. So I'm going to have to abstain, but there is so many ways this could go. It's just tantalizing.
You're going to break hearts everywhere, aren't you? You and Evan. Just going to make everybody sob so much. Oh. I don't know how much you can speak about them, but I'm very curious about the nature of the Ancients, especially their connection with Chaos. Was the idea to tie them up with Chaos something Sonic Team gave you as a plot point, or was that something created from your own suggestion? And does this clash with Chaos's previous backstory as a mutated Chao, or is it more of a transformation similar to the Ancients rather than him being fully fledged of the same race?
So the Ancients came from Sega. The link to the Chao was something I pitched to make them feel more relevant to Sonic's world. I felt like aliens from space bringing Chaos Emeralds into the narrative wasn't enough. It was too detached. It was yet another alien race to be introduced and then forgotten. So I wanted there to be something more to it. And of the discussions we had, the lineage eventually leading to a de-evolution of the Chao was what ended up clicking. As for Chaos, he is a Chao still. He is a mutant Chao. And that mutation is he looks more like their forebears than the Chao do. That line has long since ended. They are not, ancients themselves. It's just they are part of their legacy. It'd be like if a kid today was born looking like a Neanderthal or like an Australopithecus or some other early hominid. That mutation in their genes calling up long gone hereditary traits.
Yes. Also, if you're wondering, hey, you just answered this question in another episode, or a similar question in another episode. Yes, we did. But they didn't know each other had sent the question in. So, in case you're wondering.
And they may not listen to each other's things, so we're just going to answer it straight both ways.
That's right. That's right. A little peek behind the curtain. And our last question. Now that the game is out and you can watch your writing being voiced by the talented voice cast, what are some of your highlight scenes that you really enjoyed hearing voiced? Personally, two of my absolute favorites were Sonic's gentle speaking during his talk with Tails and admitting how he grew up faster than he anticipated, and of course the incredibly heartfelt performance by Mike Pollock as he authorized Sage to go aid Sonic, even if it may lead to her dying. Absolute chills.
Good stuff. The first time you enter the fishing pond and Sonic's just absolute inability to fathom Big being there. Because why would he be there? It makes no sense. And Big's just, I'm fishing. And Sonic's like, yeah, you are, buddy. Just accept it and roll with it.
I saw people...
That exchange was perfect.
I saw people saying, oh no, they left Big behind in cyberspace. I'm like, well, he got there on his own. He'll get out. He'll be fine.
He's fine.
I mean, he's big. Traveling between dimensions is just a thing he does. I mean...
he was there long enough to already accrue enough treasures to exchange for the coins,
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably had an op there for years, and you never knew. Don't question it. Big's got it down.
Leaving me to wonder where he even got the egg memos from. I don't know. He just found them, I guess. He fished them out.
The callback line, because when you're on the first island and Amy says, be careful, and Sonic says, where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
And then on the third island where Tails says, be careful, and Sonic, struggles to say the same line, and he knows he's lying to himself, but he's going to do it anyway. It's like, yeah.
Yep.
That's the kind of gut punch I'm aiming for.
Oh, it was a gut punch, all right.
Eggman coming around to Sage as not just his creation, but his daughter, I liked a lot too, especially when he comes to that full realization and the pride he has in it. That's the rationale. Why is he so able to love and accept someone? It's because he did it. It's his creation. She is his lovely daughter because he's that much of a genius. He could create that, and he loves her because he did it. No one else could create something so brilliant as him, which is twisted and not quite healthy, but it's Eggman.
Well, it's Eggman.
He's awful. Yes, the love is genuine, but it doesn't necessarily have to come from a good place. He's not a good person.
But he's surprisingly not a completely horrible father. At least not yet. I don't know. Who knows? Might change, but, I guess it's kind of like the whole Bowser and Bowser Jr. dynamic. But not that goofy, because Mario games, the tone is a little different, but,
And Sage's delivery, start to finish, finding the balance of being reserved and detached, but also having that timbre of deeper emotional range is really hard to do, especially with how limited her scenes were and how disjointed the progression was. So to do that as well as she did is really impressive.
You can hear it in her voice. She starts off very detached, and then over time, as the story progresses, she becomes a bit more human-ish, I suppose.
Yeah, which was part of the direction, but
right.
It's one thing to direct. It's another thing to actually do.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very nicely
and just
done on that front.
And the range everybody got to play with,
God, I really feel Tails, Tails, I won't go into too much detail. I know we're in the spoiler zone, but still, I don't want to completely just kick the can over on Tails, but man, I felt that guy. I felt him. Anyway, we are done. That was it.
Thanks so much to StarMech for sponsoring this BumbleKast Mini. If you want one of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a comparable member over on YouTube.
Bye-bye for now.